reading it with you again, and we can experience it together. From what I can remember, though, it's a book about a college student who wants to reopen a case in her town about a murder, but she doesn't think the person the police has accused of it has actually done it. So she's trying to solve the case. Just a little heads up and a warning though, there is talks of suicide in this book, so if that's triggering, feel free to skip this one, okay? Alright, here we go then. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. To Mum and Dad, the first one is for you. Part 1. Extended Project Qualification 2017 to 2018. Candidate's full name, Pippa Fitz Amobi. Part A, Candidate Proposal. She's studying English journalism, investigative journalism, and criminal law. And this is just a contract between her and her teacher to say that she won't contact the families that were involved in this case. He says by here, Pippa, as previously disclosed, this is an incredibly sensitive topic to pick. A terrible crime that happened in our town. I know you cannot be persuaded away from the project. It has been accepted only on the condition that no ethical lines are crossed. I think you need to find a more focused angle for your report as you work through your research without concentrating too much on sensitive issues. And let me be clear, there is to be no contact made with either of the families involved in this case. This will be considered an ethical instantly braver than half of the town's kids, her eyes traced up the path to the front door. It might only look like a few feet, but there was a rumbling chasm between where she stood and over there. It was possible that this was a very bad idea. She had considered that. The morning sun was hot, and she could already feel her knee pits growing sticky in her jeans. A bad idea or a bold idea, and yet history's greatest minds always advised bold over safe. Their words good padding for even the worst ideas. Snubbing the chasm with her soles of her shoes, she walked up the door and, pausing for just a second to check she was sure, knocked 3 times. Her tense reflection stared back at her. The long-haired, dark-haired son dyed a lighter brown at the tips. The pale face, despite a week just spent in the south of France. The sharp, muddy green eyes braced for impact. The door opened with the clatter of a falling chain and a double-locked click. "Hello," he said, holding the door half open, his hand folded over the side. Pip blinked to break her stare, but she couldn't help it. He looked so much like Sal, the Sal she knew from all those television reports and newspaper pictures. The Sal fading from her adolescent memory. Ravi had his brother's messy black side-swept hair, thick arched eyebrows, and oaken-hued skin. "Hello," he said again. Pip's put-on-the-spot charmer reflex kicked in too late. Her brain was busy processing that, unlike Sal, he had a dimple in his chin, just like hers, and he'd grown even taller since she saw him last. Sorry, hi." She did an awkward half-wave, and she immediately regretted it. Hi, Ravi," she said. "You don't know me, I'm Pippa. Fitz a movie. I was a couple of years below you at school before you left." "Okay. I was just wondering if I could borrow a jiffy of your time." "Well, not a jiffy. Did you know a jiffy is an actual measurement of time? It's 1/100th of a second. So can you maybe spare a few sequential jiffies?" Oh God, this was what happened when she was nervous or backed into a corner. She stared, spewing useless facts dressed up as bad jokes. And the other thin, nervous Pip turned 4-stroke small posh, abandoning middle class to grapple for a poor imitation of upper. Angela Johnson. The production log is intended to chart any obstacles you face in your research, your progress, and the aims on your final report. My production log will have to be a little different. I'm going to record all the research I do here, both relevant and irrelevant, because as yet I don't really know what my final project will be, nor what will end up being relevant. I don't know what I'm aiming for. I will just have to wait and see what position I am in at the end of my research, and what essay I can therefore bring together. This is starting to feel a little like a diary. I'm hoping it will not be the essay I proposed to Miss Morgan. I'm hoping it will be the truth, what really happened to Andy Bell on the 20th of April 2012. And as my instincts tell me, if Sir Little Singh is not guilty, then who killed her? I don't think I will actually solve the case and discover the person who murdered Andy. I'm not a police officer with access to a forensic lab, obviously. And I am also not deluded, but I'm hoping that my research will uncover facts and accounts that will lead to reasonable doubt about Sal's guilt, and suggest that the police were mistaken in closing the case without digging further. So my research methods will actually be interviewing those close to the case, obsessive social media stalking, and wild speculation. Don't let Miss Morgan see any of this. The first stage in this project, then, is to research what happened to Andrea Bell, known as Andy to everyone, and the circumstances surrounding her disappearance. This information will be taken from news articles and police press conferences from around that time. Write your preferences in now so you don't have to do it later. Copied and pasted from the first national news outlet to report on her disappearance. Andrea Bell, 17, was reported missing from her home in Little Kilton, Buckinghamshire, last Friday. She left home in her car, a black Peugeot 206, with her mobile phone, but did not take any clothes with her. Police say her disappearance is completely out of character. Police have been searching woodlands near the family home over the weekend. Andrea, known as Andy, is described as white, 5 feet 6 inches tall, with long blonde hair. It is thought that she was wearing dark jeans and a blue cropped jumper on the night she went missing. After everything happened, later articles had more detail as to when Andy was last seen alive and the time window in which she is believed to have been abducted. Andy Bell was last seen alive by her younger sister Becca at around 12:30 p.m. on the 20th of April 2012. This was corroborated by the police in a press conference on Tuesday the 24th of April. CCTV footage taken from a security camera outside STN Bank on Little Kilton High Street confirms that Andy's car was seen driving away from her home at around 12:40 p.m. According to her parents, Jason and Dawn Bell, Andy was supposed to pick them up from a dinner party at 12:45 a.m. When Andy didn't show up or answer any of their phone calls, she started ringing her friends to see if anyone knew of her whereabouts. Jason Bell called the police to report his daughter missing at 3 a.m. Saturday morning. So whatever happened to Andy Bell that night happened between 10:40 p.m. and 12:45 a.m. Here seems a good place to type up the transcript from my telephone interview yesterday with Angela Johnson. so I can type it up later to use in my project. Angela, yes, that's fine. I'm sorry, I've only got about 10 minutes to give you, so what do you want to know about missing persons? Pip, well, I was wondering if you could talk me through what happened when someone is reported missing. What's the process and the first steps taken by the police? Angela, so when someone rings 999 or 101 to report someone is missing, the police will try to get as much detail as possible so they can identify the potential risks to the missing person, and an appropriate police response can be made. The kinds of details they will ask for in the first call are name, age, description of the person, what clothes they were last seen wearing, the circumstances of their disappearance. If going missing is out of character for the person, details of any vehicle involved. Using this information, the police will determine whether it is a high, low or medium risk case. Pip, and what circumstances would make a case high risk? Angela, if they are vulnerable because of their age or disability, that would be high risk. If the behaviour is out of character, then it is likely an indicator that they have been exposed to harm, so that would be high risk. Pip, so if the missing person is 17 years old and it is deemed out of character for her to go missing, would this be considered a high risk case? Angela, oh absolutely, if a minor is involved. Pip, so how would the police respond to a high risk case? Angela, well, there would be immediate deployment of police officers to the location the person is missing from. The officer will have to acquire further details about the missing person, such as details of their friends or partners, any health conditions, their financial information in case they can be found when trying to withdraw money. They will also need a number of recent photographs of the person, and in a high-risk case, they may take DNA samples in case they are needed in subsequent forensic examination. And with consent of the homeowners, the location will be searched thoroughly to see if the missing person is concealed or hiding there, and to establish whether there are any further evidential leads. That's the normal procedure. Pip, so immediately the police are looking for any clues or suggestions that the missing person has been the victim of a crime. Angela, absolutely. If the circumstances of the disappearance are suspicious, officers are always told, if in doubt, think murder. Of course, only a very small percentage of missing person cases turn out to be homicide cases, but officers are instructed to document evidence early on, as though they are investigating a homicide. Pip, and after the initial home address search, what happens if nothing significant turns up? Angela, they will expand the search to the immediate area. They might request telephone information. They'll question friends, neighbours, anyone who may have relevant information. If it is a young person or teenager who's missing, a reporting parent cannot be assumed to know all of their child's friends and acquaintances. Their peers are a good port of call to establish other important contacts. You know, any secret boyfriends, that sort of thing. And a press strategy is usually discussed because appeals for information in the media can be very useful in these situations. Pip, so if it's a 17-year-old girl who's gone missing, police would have contacted her friends and boyfriend quite early on. Angela, yes, of course. Inquiries will be made because if the missing person has run away, they are likely to be hiding out with a person close to them. Pip, and at what point in the missing person's case do police accept they are looking for a body? Angela, well, time-wise it's not. Oh, Pippa, I have to go. Sorry, I've been called into a meeting. Pip, oh, okay. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me. Angela, and if you have any more questions, just pop me an email and I'll get to them when I can. Pip, will do. Thanks again. Angela, bye. I have found these statistics online. 80% of missing people are found in the first 24 hours. 97% are found in the first week. 99% of cases are resolved in the first year. That leaves just 1%. 1% of people who disappear are never found. But there's another figure to consider. Just 0.25% of all missing persons cases have a fatal outcome. And where does this leave Andy Bell? Floating incessantly somewhere between 1% and 0.25%, fractionally increasing and decreasing in tiny decibel breaths. But by now most people accept that she's dead, even though her body has never been recovered. And why is that? Sal's sin is why. Chapter 2. Pip's hands strayed from the keyboard, her index fingers hovering over the W and H as she strained to listen to the commotion downstairs. A crash, heavy footsteps, skidding claws, and unrestrained boyish giggles. In the next second it all became clear. Joshua, why is the dog wearing one of my shirts? Came Victor's buoyant shout. The sound floated up through Pip's carpet. Pip snort laughed as she clicked save on her production log and closed the lid of her laptop. It was a time-honoured daily crescendo from the moment her dad returned from work. He was never quiet. His whispers could be heard across the room. His whooping knee-slap laugh so loud it actually made people flinch. And every year without fail, Pip woke up to the sound of him tiptoeing the upstairs corridor to deliver Santa stockings on Christmas Eve. Her stepdad was the living adversary of subtlety. Downstairs, Pip found the scene mid-production. Joshua was running from room to room, from the kitchen to the hallway and into the living room, on repeat, cackling as he went. Close behind was Barney, the golden retriever, wearing Pip's dad's loudest shirt, the blindingly green patterned one. He'd bought during the first trip to Nigeria. The dog skidded elatantly across the polished oak in the hall, excitement whistling through his teeth, and bringing up the rear was Victor in his grey Hugo Boss three-piece suit, charging all 6.5 feet of himself after the dog and the boy, his laugh in wild climbing scale bursts. Their very own Amobi home-made Scooby-Doo montage. Oh my God, I was trying to do homework, Pip said, smiling as she jumped back to avoid being mowed down by the convoy sofa beside him. "Hi, Dad. You were so quiet. I didn't even know you were home." "My Pipsicle, you are too clever to recycle a joke." She sat down next to them, Josh and her dad's worn-out breaths making the sofa cushion swell and sink against the back of her legs. Josh started excavating in his right nostril, and Dad batted his hand away. "How were your days then?" he asked, setting Josh off on a graphic spiel about the football games he'd played earlier. Pip zoned out. She'd already heard it all in the car when she picked Josh up from the club. She'd really only been half listening, distracted by the way the replacement coach had stared bewilderedly at her lily-white skin when she pointed out which of the 9-year-olds was hers, and said, "I'm Joshua's sister." She should have been used to it by now. The lingering looks while people tried to work out the logistics of her family. The numbers and hedged words scribbled across the family tree. The giant Nigerian man was quite evidently her stepfather, and Joshua her half-brother, but Pip didn't like using those words, those cold technicalities. The people you love weren't algebra, to be calculated, subtracted, or held at arm's length across a decimal point. Victor and Josh weren't just 3/8 hers, not just 40% family. They were fully hers, her dad and her annoying little brother. Her real father, the man that lent the Fitz to her name, died in a car accident when she was just 10 months old, and though Pip sometimes nodded and smiled when her mum would ask whether she remembered the way her father hummed while he brushed his teeth, or how he'd laugh when Pip's second spoken word was poo, she didn't remember him. But sometimes remembering isn't for yourself. Sometimes you do it just to make someone else smile. Those lies were allowed. "And how's the project going, Pip?" Victor turned to her as he unbuttoned the shirt from the dog. "It's okay," she said. "I'm just looking up the background and typing up at the moment. I did go to see Ravi Singh this morning. Oh, and he was busy, but he said I could go back on Friday." "I wouldn't," Josh said in a cautionary tone. "That's because you're a judgmental, prepubescent boy who still thinks little people live inside traffic lights." Pip looked at him. "The Singhs haven't done anything wrong." Her dad stepped in. "Joshua, trying to imagine if everyone judged you because of something your sister had done. All Pip ever does is homework." Pip executed a perfect arm-swan cushion lob into Joshua's face. Victor held the boy's arms down as he squirmed to retaliate, tickling his ribs. "Why's Mum not back yet?" asked Pip, teasing the restrained Josh by floating her fluffy-socked foot near his face. "She was going straight from work to Boozy Mum's book club," Dad said. "Meaning we can have a pizza for dinner?" Pip asked, and suddenly the friendly fire was forgotten, and she and Josh were in the same battalion again. He jumped up and hooked his arm through hers, looking imploringly at their dad. "Of course," Victor said, patting his backside with a grin. "How else am I going to keep growing this junk in my trunk?" "Dad," Pip groaned, admonishing her past self for ever teaching him that phrase. Production log entry 2. Sal's best friends can assist with this, using what Angela said, presumably after taking statements from the Bell family and thoroughly searching their residence. The police asked for details for Andy's friends. From some seriously historical Facebook stalking, it looks like Andy's best friends were two girls called Chloe Birch and Emma Houghton. I mean, here's my evidence. Emma Houghton, Sal Singh, and 97 others. View 6 more comments. Emma Houghton. Oh my god, Andy, you are literally incredible. So beaut. Chloe Birch. FFS. I wish I didn't have to be in the pics with you. Give me your face. Andy Bell. No thanks. Emma Houghton. Andy, can we take a nice one of the three of us next time? Calamity needs a new profile. This post is from 2 weeks before Andy disappeared. It looks like neither Chloe nor Emma live in Kilton anymore. Maybe private message them and see if they'll do a phone interview. Chloe and Emma did a lot in the first weekend, the 21st and the 22nd, to help spread the Thames Valley Police Twitter campaign, #FindAndy. I don't think it's too big of a leap to assume that police contacted Chloe and Emma either on the Friday night or Saturday morning. What they said to the police, I don't know. Hopefully I can find out. We do know that police spoke to Andy's boyfriend at the time. His name was Sal Singh, and he was attending his final year at Kilton Grammar alongside Andy. At some point on the Saturday, the police contacted Sal. DI Richard Hawkins confirmed that officers had questioned Sal Singh on Saturday the 21st of April. They questioned him as to his whereabouts for the previous night, particularly the period of time in which it is believed Andy went missing. That night, Sal had been hanging out at his friend's Max Hastings' house. He was with his 4 best friends, Naomi Ward, Jake Lawrence, Minnie Simpson, and Max. Again, I need to check this with Naomi next week, but I think Sal told the police that he left Max's house at around 12:15 a.m. He walked home, and his father, Mohan Singh, confirmed that Sal returned home at approximately 12:50 a.m. Note, the distance between Max's house, Tudor Lane, and Sal's Grove Place takes about 30 minutes to walk, says Google. The police confirmed Sal's alibi with his 4 friends over the weekend. Missing posters went up, house-to-house inquiries started on the Sunday. On the Monday, 100 volunteers helped the police carry out searches in the local woodland. I've seen the news footage, a whole ant line of people in the woods calling her name. Later in the day, forensic teams were spotted going into the Ball residence. And on the Tuesday, everything changed. I think chronologically is the best way to consider the events of the day, and to those that followed, even though we as a town learned the details out of order and jumbled. Mid-morning, Naomi Ward, Max Hastings, Jack Lawrence, and Minnie Simpson contacted the police from school and confessed to providing false information. They said that Sal had asked them to lie and that he actually left Max's house at around 10:30 p.m. on the night of Andy's disappearance. I don't know for sure what the correct police procedure would have been, but I'm guessing that at that point Sal became the #1 suspect. But they couldn't find him. Sal wasn't at school and he wasn't at home. He wasn't answering his phone. It later transpired, however, that Sal had sent a text to his father that morning. Though he was ignoring all other calls, the press would refer to this as a confession text. That Tuesday evening, one of the police teams searching for Andy found a body in the woods. It was Sal. He had killed himself. The press never reported the method by which Sal committed suicide, but by the power of high school rumour, I know, as did every other student at Kilton at the time, Sal walked into the woods near his home, took a load of sleeping pills, and placed a plastic bag over his head, secured by an elastic band around his neck. He suffocated while unconscious. At the police press conference later that night, no mention of Sal was made. The police only revealed that bit of information about CCTV imaging placing Andy as driving away from her home at 10:40 p.m. On the Wednesday, Andy's car was found parked on a small residential road, rumour close. It wasn't until the following Monday that a police spokeswoman revealed the following. I have an update on the Andy Bell investigation. As a result of recent intelligence and forensic information, we have strong reason to suspect that a young man called Sal Singh, aged 18, was involved in Andy's abduction and murder. The evidence would have been sufficient to arrest and charge the suspect if he had not died before. Proceedings could be initiated. Police are not looking for anyone else in relation to Andy's disappearance at this time, but our search for Andy will continue unabated. Our thoughts go out to the Bell family and our deepest sympathies for the devastation this update has caused to them. The sufficient evidence was as follows. They found Andy's mobile phone on Sal's body. Forensic tests found traces of Andy's blood under the fingernails of his right middle and index fingers. Andy's blood was also discovered in the front boot of her abandoned car. Sal's fingerprints were found around the dashboard and steering wheel, alongside prints of Andy and the rest of the Bell family. The evidence, they said, would have been enough to charge Sal, and the police would have hoped to secure a conviction in court, but Sal was dead, so there was no trial and no guilty conviction, no defence either. In the following weeks, there were more searches of the woodland areas in around Little Kilton, searches using cadaver dogs, police divers in the river Kilbourne, but Andy's body was never found. The Andy Bell missing persons case was administratively closed in the middle of June 2012. A case may be administratively closed only if the supporting documentation contains sufficient evidence to charge. Had the offender not died before the investigation could be completed, the case may have reopened whenever new evidence or leads develop. Off to the cinema in 15 minutes. Another superhero film that Josh has emotionally blackmailed us to see, but there's just one final part to the background of the Andy Bell / Sal Singh case, and I'm on a roll. person is likely to be dead and that sufficient time has elapsed. The coroner will then apply to the Secretary of State for Justice under the Coroner's Act in 1988, Section 15, for an inquest with no body. Where there is no body, an inquest will rely mostly on evidence provided by the police and whether the senior officers of the investigation believe in the missing person has died. An inquest is a legal inquiry into the medical causes and circumstances of death. It cannot blame individuals for the death or establish criminal liability on the part of the named individual. At the end of the inquest, January 2014, the coroner returned a verdict of unlawful killing and Andy Bell's death certificate was issued. An unlawful killing verdict literally means the person was killed by an unlawful act by someone, or more specifically, death by murder, manslaughter, infanticide, or death by dangerous driving. This is where everything ends. Andy Bell had been legally declared dead despite her body never being found. Given the circumstances, we can presume that the unlawful killing verdict refers to murder. After Andy's inquest, a statement from the Crown Prosecution Service said the case against Singh would have been passed on circumstantial and forensic evidence. It is not for the CPs to state whether Singh killed Andy Bell or not. That would have been a jury's job to decide. So even though there has never been a trial, even though no headed juror has ever stood up, sweaty palmed and adrenaline pumped, and declared, "We the jury find the defendant guilty," even though Sal never had the chance to defend himself, he is guilty, not in the legal sense, but in all of the other ways that truly matters. When you ask people in town what happened to Andy Bell, they'll tell you without hesitation, she was murdered by Singh, not allegedly. No might have, no probably, no most likely. He did it. They say Singh killed Andy, but I'm not so sure. Next log, possibly look into what the prosecution's case against Sal might have looked like if it went to court, then start pecking away and putting holes in it. Okay, we'll stop it here at chapter 3, and we'll start it again in the next video. What do you think of it so far? It's honestly very interesting, and reading it again with you now has brought back memories of this book. As I said in the beginning, I haven't read all of this book, so I'm very interested to see whether Sal actually did it or not. What do you think? Do you think he actually killed Andy? I'm not so sure myself, really. I mean, it doesn't look good though, does it? It doesn't look good if your girlfriend goes missing and then the next day it looks like you've committed suicide. It doesn't look good, does it? But I'm gonna believe that he didn't kill her at the moment. But I could be proved wrong, you know. We might read a couple more chapters and it might look like he did actually kill her, but at the moment I don't think he did. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Also tell me what your favourite part of this book has been so far in the first 2 chapters. I think my favourite part is just how awkward and funny she is, you know. notice how awkward and funny Pip is. You can really imagine her getting all sweaty and saying silly things because she's in an awkward or embarrassing situation, you know. Like, I'm sure we all do that, don't we? When we're in an embarrassing situation, we all say things we later think about and we're like, oh, why did